So in the spirit of the new year, I think it's time to go through my scraps. This is pretty much everything minus some of the really small offcuts, and I'd like to figure out what I'm gonna do with these. I think that most of these pieces are under a yard, so I'm gonna go through and kind of measure them and see what they might be good for. I also want to figure out some way to categorize them, so maybe I'll put like fabrics together or like colors together. I'm not really sure yet, but we're gonna go through this process together. I've also got my yardstick here because I think that my scrap pile also got mixed in with some things that are more than a yard, probably just because I wasn't planning to use them and I wanted to have like a little bit of an accumulation before I sold them on Instagram or something. So yeah, let's get into it. I just decided I would pile everything with like fabrics and then I would go from there. What I want to do is probably start with the fabric that I'm most inspired by, or the type of fabric that I'm most inspired by, because I think that's just going to get my creative juices flowing and it'll help me figure out what I'm going to do with some of the fabric that I'm less inspired by. So for whatever reason, I love working with denim and canvas. So I've got two piles here for denim and canvas, and one is just a pile of stuff that's heavier weight and one is a pile of stuff that's lighter weight. So we're gonna start with those first. I picked up this fabric in LA from the Fashion District and it is so comfortable. I made a pair of Helen jeans out of it that I love a lot, but let's open it up and see how much there's actually left of it. So the piece is really long and skinny, which is why it probably ended up in the scrap pile. I don't exactly know if it's enough to make anything substantial out of, but maybe if I patchworked this together with some other pieces of denim, I could make like a cool patchwork coat or something. I've really enjoyed some of the denim patchwork that I've seen over on Instagram, so maybe I'll try to take some inspiration and ideas from things that I've already seen and kind of formulate it into something for myself. Okay, next up is this leftover Carhartt material. It's dead stock Carhartt that I picked up from a fabric store that I used to live near, and it's amazing. There's a relatively substantial amount of it, but not enough to make an entire garment. Folded in half, it's about 33 inches by 26 inches. Since my sewing practice is so garment focused, it's really hard for me to think up ideas of what to do with a piece of fabric that isn't big enough for a garment. I think that ultimately I'm gonna have to do some research and figure out what other people are doing and see if any of it identifies with what I want to do with my fabric scraps, because I don't really want to make things just for the sake of making them. I want to make things that I'm either gonna wear or use in my day-to-day life. I could also potentially see myself making some wall art, but I think that I would have to be really intentional about doing that, because again, I want to make something that I'm actually gonna enjoy. Okay, I'm gonna fold this piece of fabric up and move on. I've also got this piece of canvas that's actually pretty large and I was really excited about it when I found it at the thrift store, but the second I threw it through the wash and brought it out, it got so crinkly and I do not know how to get the crinkles out. Like, I've steamed it, I've pressed it, I've done all the things, but yeah, the texture is also not that nice, so I'm not even sure that it would make a comfortable garment, but let me go ahead and measure it and see what I can think up. So it's about 1 3/8 of a yard, which is pretty substantial, and I could probably make like a cropped coat or something out of it. I'm not sure if I would like this crinkly look as a garment, but it could also elevate the garment and make it have some extra texture that's nice. But then there's also that element of it not being super comfortable. So I'm kind of thinking, what if I were to make a cropped jacket out of this, but I lined the jacket so that the inside is comfortable and then the outside is this material. By doing that, I could potentially also hit two birds with one stone and use this fabric for the exterior and then some other fabric in this stash for the interior. Yeah, that could be cool. Let's roll with that for now. Okay, so next up I have these 4 fabrics that are very similar in weight and texture. They're all really soft and mid-weight twills. The biggest one here I think is actually pretty large, so let's open it up and find out. The piece of fabric itself is really awkwardly shaped because I've cut out other garments from this before, but I do think that if I finagled it enough, I could probably get a cropped coat out of it, maybe something with long sleeves and a cropped body. And then I could potentially use these other fabrics that are smaller pieces as cuffs and a collar and maybe some interior and exterior pockets. I feel like that would be a really good use of these fabrics, especially because they're all kind of neutral fabrics, so I think that they would go together. And also it would push me a little bit outside of my comfort zone, because normally I make entire garments out of a single fabric just because that's what I'm comfortable with and it's in line with my personal style. But because these are all kind of neutral colors, I think that they would go together really well, and it would push me to try something new in my wardrobe. So I think that's probably a pretty good use of this fabric here. This is one of those smaller pieces, and it would probably be enough to do like a collar and cuffs, and it would look really nice paired with this fabric. Then these two fabrics here are actually the same fabric in different colors that I picked up from the Salt Lake Society, and these are just the offcuts from other projects that I've done. They're both a Japanese cotton twill, and they are so cozy. They're also both really funny strips and sizes, so these would probably make good pockets. This one is actually a little bit larger, but again, it's not big enough for like a garment or anything. These could potentially pair really well with this crinkly material as a coat together. I think that would look really nice. I don't know. What do you think? Okay, let's move on to the next stuff. Next up are these babies. Again, they're all a similar weight in fabric, so they could potentially be used together as a project. These ones are pretty small offcuts, but together they kind of look like a watermelon. I don't know if that's a vibe or not. I don't know if it's my vibe, but it could be cute together. They're both pastel-y colors and they look nice together. Then we've got a little bit of gray and a little bit of blue. This one is definitely the biggest piece. The blue is, let's see. This blue one's actually pretty large. It could potentially be the back to a wall quilt. So I'll keep that in mind. And let's see these pieces. This one's a super awkward shape, but it could potentially be pieces of a quilt. This one's just a large square. And then this one is also another large shape that looks like strawberry ice cream to me. Ooh. This looks kind of cool. Let me show you guys. So I totally just haphazardly laid these out, and I think they have really good potential to be a cool wall quilt. It might be something nice to enhance the sewing space a little bit, so I think that is what these are going to be repurposed into. You guys, look at how cute this fabric looks together. All nice and neat and pretty and such nice colors. I'm so excited. I know I'm just in the beginning stages of going through my offcuts, but I'm having so much fun trying to think up all these ideas of what I could make with it. And if you're feeling a little bit nervous about going through all of your stash, I would highly, highly recommend doing it. Just set aside a day, have some time, play around with it, and just try to have fun. There are so many cool things that we can be making with this stash that we already own. I know that I'm not personally in a financial situation where I can just be buying lots of fabric, so it's fun to figure out what I have and what I'm gonna do with it. So yeah, I hope that that's just a little bit of encouragement to you if you're in the same position as me, or if you have a really big fabric stash and you just don't know what to do with it. I know that all of our sewing journeys are very different, but it's so fun to have this community and be able to bounce ideas off of each other and just make really beautiful things together. Obviously, you're not at my house actually making it with me, but I do appreciate that you're here and that I get to be inspired by you guys. Okay, enough rambling, let's move on. Next up are these two printed canvases. This fabric was gifted to me and it's definitely not really my style. I made a tote bag out of it that I sold, but there's definitely a little bit of extra material here. I don't really know what I would do with this fabric because, like I said before, I don't really love printed material. It's just not my personal style. And also there's not a ton of it. I'm curious what you guys would do in a situation like this where you have a little bit of an offcut of a fabric, but you don't know what to do with it and it's also not really big enough to gift away to someone else. If you have any recommendations at all, please leave them down below for me. I would really, really appreciate it. Okay, and then the other printed fabric is this canvas. It's actually really nice. I purchased it to make a corset for someone. It was a custom order back when I owned my business. It came out so beautiful. I absolutely loved it. And although it is a print, it's in a neutral color and it's pretty muted, so it doesn't feel like overly crazy or anything. And I think it's definitely something that I would wear. But there is also not a ton of this fabric. There's actually probably enough to make another corset. And I don't own a corset. I've made a ton of them for other people, but I've never made one for myself. So maybe I'll take this opportunity to make a corset for myself. You know what? Actually, scratch that. I totally just recently made a corset dress. I'll insert a video that I made for it. I absolutely love that dress. It's beautiful. But when I was making that dress, I was actually toying with the idea of making them two separate pieces so that I could have one that was a top and one that was a skirt, and when you put them together it looked like a dress. I didn't have enough zippers to actually do that at the time, so that's not the route that I chose to go. But this fabric might actually give me the opportunity to make myself a corset that isn't a dress. And then of course that way it would just be more versatile because I could wear it with jeans. So yeah, I think that's what I'll do. I think I'll make a corset for myself. Oh my gosh, I'm so excited. This is really fun. Okay, let's move on. All of the denim and the twills are done, and now we're gonna move on to the next category that I'm most inspired by, and that is knits. There are only a few here, so it shouldn't be too difficult to get through. We're gonna start with this really nice blue one, which again was originally from a commission that I made for someone, and this is just the leftover from that. This is actually a really sizable piece, and it would totally be enough to make a top out of. It might even be enough to make two tops out of. If you watched the last video that I posted, I talked about 9 different items that I'm planning to make this year for my closet, and 3 of those items are tops. So I think I'll use this fabric as twills. While I do really like this fabric and the color, I don't think it's gonna go very nice with my skin tone, so it would probably be the perfect fabric to make a twill out of. Just like with every twill, I'll try to make this a wearable twill, but if it's not wearable and I screw it up for some reason, it won't be a big deal because obviously this is just offcuts that would have otherwise not been used in my stash. So yeah, this is gonna be twirling fabric for a tank top. Okay, now we've got some black fabric. There's not a ton of this here, but I could probably squeeze a tank top out of it potentially. I might have to patchwork the pieces together because they're kind of skinny, but this is a stretchy fabric, so we would have to see about that. But again, this would make a great twirling fabric for some of the things that I have in mind for my Make 9. Okay, next up is this really fun fabric. I don't know if you can see, but the texture of it is kind of like a giraffe texture. Whoa. Okay, I've got a lot of it. I think it's swimsuit material actually, but I'm not totally positive on that. These could make some really fun athletic leggings. They do have a 4-way stretch, but I'm not totally sure that I would get a lot of wear out of it just because of the material and my style. So I might measure this one and sell it on an Instagram story. Let's see what it measures out to. So this is exactly 1 yard of fabric, and I think I'm just gonna go ahead and sell it. Now, next up is some more black fabric. It is, I think, the same one as this other one. Maybe it's got a little bit different of a texture, but they're very similar, and it is a very tiny piece. What do people do with such tiny pieces of fabric? Ugh. You know, I am actually really excited though, because after this, I'm gonna do a deep dive on the internet and try to figure out what other people do with their scraps. Maybe I'll get some more ideas for some of these pieces that I'm having a hard time figuring out what to do with. And if I do figure out something, I will report back. And also, if you have any ideas, like I said before, please leave them down below. It would be super helpful to me and to everyone else who's watching this. All right, and lastly in this category is this piece of fabric. It's so soft, but again, there's not a ton of it. It's probably not enough to make a tank top unless maybe it got patchworked together, which I guess is actually an option. Okay, maybe I'll try to do a patchwork tank top out of this. I've never done a patchwork tank before, but my friend Natalia, who is also a YouTuber, does some really cool patchwork tanks that she sells. So maybe I'll borrow some inspiration from that and I'll try to make one for myself. Okay. Next up, we've got cozy fabrics. The first one here is this really soft piece. I don't know what the word you'd use is. The backside is like a canvas and then the front is fuzzy and soft, but look at this material. So beautiful. I know I'm kind of a print hater, but I really love the print on this, and as you can probably tell, I do like wearing animal print as well. But this is such a tiny piece of fabric and I've been keeping it around because I love it. I just don't know what to do with it. It could be nice as pockets or maybe a collar or cuffs, kind of like the other small pieces that we talked about earlier, but I'm not totally sure what the application would be for this one. Oh my gosh, I just had an idea. Okay, do you guys know the maker Wide-Eyed Makes on Instagram? She makes the most beautiful denim pieces. I'm super inspired by her style and all of her makes, and honestly, I think she is the queen of making jeans. She makes a lot of Persephone pants, a lot of Helen jeans. Sorry, I keep saying Helen jeans. They are Helene jeans, and my brain just automatically goes to Helen jeans because that's what I've been saying in my brain forever, and I don't really speak that word out loud very often except for to you guys. So gotta get Helen jeans out of my head. Sorry about that. Anyways, back to Wide-Eyed Makes. You should follow her on Instagram if you don't already, but she's been making some really cool patchwork pieces recently. She'll do like almost a full jacket in one fabric, and then maybe like the bottom strip is a different fabric and it matches the pockets or something to that effect, but it always looks super cool and fresh, and I would love to make something like that for my wardrobe and see if it fits into my personal style. I know that when I see it on her, it looks so good, and so potentially I could feel the same way about putting it on my own body. I don't know. Anyways, what if I used this to do something similar to that, where it's either like the bottom strip on a jacket, or it's the pockets, or maybe it's just like a shape on the back of a jacket, but it's also been tucked away in my stash for a while, so I haven't even had the opportunity to look at it and be inspired by it until now. So yeah, I'm gonna put this aside with some of those bigger pieces of denim that I have, and maybe I can work it into a project. Okay, I have some batting here, apparently. I don't know what it's from. Oh, this would probably be the perfect size for that wall quilt that I was talking about making, so I'm going to match it with that. Perfecto! All right, another very, very tiny piece of fabric. What am I supposed to do with a fabric piece this weird and small? I don't know. Let's see. Have you guys seen the video that Cool Stitches made recently where she cuts up a lot of different small pieces of fabric and then essentially she quilts it into another piece of fabric? I feel like this could potentially work for that. I would kind of want to curate the fabric so that it's all similar and looks nice together, but I could potentially put this aside for a project like that. Yeah, let's do that. That's what's gonna happen with this piece. Okay, now we also have more of a similar type of fabric that I just showed you, but it is bigger. Oh man, this again would be so nice as like the cuffs and pockets and a collar on something. I'm feeling really inspired by these smaller pieces of fabric to patchwork into garments. I don't totally know the application that I want to use for this one yet, so I think I'm gonna set it aside and hopefully continue to get inspired. Then we have another similar piece of fabric. This one is a wool, also kind of a funny size and shape. Actually, these two fabrics might be enough to patchwork together into a quilted vest, and I've been wanting to try out a quilted vest in my closet, so this would give me a really good opportunity to try that. I also think that the fabrics look really nice together, so I'm gonna put those aside, and that's the project that I'll have written down for it. I'm not totally sure that's enough fabric, but I might be able to squeak it out. And then lastly, we've got this piece of fabric. It's actually an old blanket, but it's super cozy. It's almost like a boucle fabric. This could potentially be the inside layer of that vest, and then I could bind all of the edges and it could be reversible. Yeah, I'm so excited. This is so fun. Okay, amazing. Okay, so the next category is like fancy, slinky fabrics, all of the same kind of weight and texture. So let's start with this one. It is a satin material. I think that I originally purchased it for a custom order and then didn't get around to using all of it. I've made some really nice cowl neck tops out of this kind of fabric, as well as cowl neck dresses that are super nice. This one would have been great for the holidays if I had even realized it was in my stash. But with that being said, I'm not totally sure that I would get a whole lot of wear out of this color. Like, I don't really think I have anything that's red in my wardrobe, and this is like a really bright red. This could, however, be a nice bag as like an accent to an outfit. So for example, I could have a black dress and then have a pop of red in my bag, but I think there's kind of a lot of it here, so I'm gonna go ahead and measure out how much it is and then go from there and decide what we want to do with it. Oh wow, yeah, there's a lot. Okay, so there is 2 yards of this satin, and that would make such a perfect dress. So I think because I'm not super inspired by this fabric to make a dress for myself, I'll probably pass it on to the next home. I am doing an Instagram story sale soon, so if you don't follow me on Instagram, you should go ahead and do that. So yeah, I think I'm gonna sell this one because it's gonna make a beautiful dress for someone, and it's just not the perfect fabric for me. Okay, I also have 3 more fabrics up next. They're all printed fabrics, and I know that they're just not gonna get used. I've had them in my stash for a while, and they're they're absolutely beautiful, but I just can't imagine myself wearing them, and I know that they would get some amazing use in someone else's hands. So first up is this vintage Hawaiian print. It's so cool and it was gifted to me by someone, but it's a little bit loud for my taste, which is why I'm gonna pass it on. Then there are these two fabrics, which were also vintage fabrics that were gifted to me, and they're so beautiful. They would make such a lovely dress. They have a really nice drape, but again, they've just been sitting in my closet for so long and I can't imagine myself wearing this print. So they're gonna go to a new home because this fabric deserves to be worn. We've got some lace up next, and this is some leftover lace from a gift that I made for my mom. I made all of my Christmas gifts this year, and I'll be sure to link the video for you if you're interested in watching that. I'm not totally sure what I would use this for. It could probably be made into some sort of lingerie, but I haven't really dove into the lingerie making yet. I do already have some lingerie lace in my stash, so I think I'll put this with that stash so that when I'm ready to start making lingerie, all of the fabric will be together and I can be inspired by it then. Ooh. Okay, next up we have this really long skinny piece of satin. I made a video of gifts that you can sew, and when I was doing research I found this picture of a beautiful purse. It would be super simple to make and I would actually really like to do a tutorial for you guys on it, so I think that I'm gonna go ahead and put this fabric aside to make that tutorial. Or at the very least I'll use it as a toiling fabric so that I can nail down the pattern and then make the tutorial for you. Now I've also got this fabric which is left over from my Matilda dress, and it would also make an absolutely beautiful purse, so I'm gonna put both of these fabrics aside for that specific video so that I have some fabric to twirl and some fabric to make the final pattern and show you how to do it. Now I've also got this really lightweight suiting fabric that I picked up. I've made a pair of bisque trousers out of it, and I've also made a pair of the assembly line trousers from it. This is just the leftover remnants from those two projects, and I'm not exactly sure how much it is. This is just another one of those weird shapes, and I'm not really sure like what you could do with it. You know what, actually there's kind of enough of it that there's potential I could make a top out of it. I don't have a specific pattern in mind for this, but I do think it would be really good to keep around either as a toiling fabric or as a final fabric for a shirt. So that's probably what this one's gonna become. You guys, these next few fabrics that I have are absolutely beautiful, but I have no idea what to make with them. I have three of the same. One is green, one is red, and one is black, and they're actually silk scarves, but they're really big scarves and they're so pretty. Such good detailing. This is one of those things again though where I'm running into this frustration of loving a fabric but not feeling like it's my personal style. I'm not sure if that means that I'm just closing off my personal style because I think I know what it is in my head, but maybe I'm actually being inspired by this fabric and I should try to make something out of it for me. But then at the same time, I wouldn't want to make something and then not love it and wear it. So I feel like I'm at a little bit of a crossroads with this. I don't know. I would love to know your thoughts about personal style and how you've developed yours over the years. I know that mine has developed a lot as well, and maybe I just need to be more open to the idea of playing with style a little bit so that I can kind of open my eyes to new horizons. Anyways, if you have ideas for these beautiful fabrics, please let me know. Okay, now in the same vein as that silk material, I also have this material here. It's actually a skirt. It's so beautiful and has a really nice drape, and it's also double-sided, so it's got different fabrics on either side. It used to be my sister's, but she gifted it to me because she was no longer wearing it, and she knew that the fabric could be made into something else. Stuck on the same problem though, I don't know what to make out of it. It's beautiful fabric that I'm probably not gonna wear, so all your thoughts in the comments are much appreciated. Okay, now last thing in this category is this beautiful black twill. It's the same fabric that I used for my Rose Cafe bustier dress, and it is so luxurious to wear. There's kind of awkward amounts of it left just based on how I cut it, but I think there's actually enough to make a small dress out of it, and I don't have any like cute little black dresses, so I think that I'm gonna put this aside to make a little black dress. It could be super simple and the perfect party dress and would definitely fill a place in my wardrobe that I don't currently have. Okay, we are moving on to the last category, and that is cotton and cotton-like fabric. I think we are quickly approaching items that I'm not sure that I'm gonna know what to do with, but let's get through it together. Okay, so I have this fabric, which, oh my gosh, I wish you could feel it through the screen, but obviously you can't. It is so soft and luxurious. It has like a tiny bit of stretch. I made a dress out of it one time, and the dress was originally for myself, but of course I posted about it on Instagram. Someone wanted to buy it from me, and I needed the money, so I said, please take it off of my back. And I'm so sad that I did that because I loved that dress. I did make another one for myself in another material, so it's kind of okay, but this fabric is to die for. However, there's not very much of it. It's a pretty small piece. I don't know. What could I make out of it? It like would wrap around my body one time, but it would be really, really short. Maybe if it was like this, I don't know. I just think it's not going to be the right size for a shirt, but there also is a little bit of stretch in it, so maybe, who knows? I think that this one might get put aside into a pile of something that I'm gonna like cut up into small scraps and then repurpose the small scraps from, because it matches really well with this other fabric from earlier that I'm gonna cut up into small scraps. So these two I think will live together for now. Then we've got this fabric, which was also gifted to me. It's really pretty, but now that I'm looking at it up close, it's kind of sheer. Like if I put this on without a bra, you'd definitely see my boobs. Yeah, I don't know what I would make out of this one. It's got this print on the front side. It's kind of like an embroidered detail. And then on the back side, it's just black. I think I'm actually gonna sell this one because like I said before, there are so many people out there who have better use for fabrics than I do. I have very, very specific things that I want to make for my wardrobe, and this one probably isn't gonna cut it for that. So I'm gonna try to rehome this one on Instagram. Okay, next up is this black material. This is a linen blend and it's pretty nice. Let's see how long it is. Okay, so it's like 7/8 of a yard, which is not that much fabric. I feel like most of the time you need like a full yard unless you're making a stretchy shirt or something. This might actually make a nice short slip dress for the summer with just like skinny straps and a very square body. So I think I'm gonna keep this one around and maybe I'll use it as like a toiling fabric to make a linen dress that you can throw over a bathing suit for the summer. Okay, next up is this gray cotton material. It's actually a quilting cotton, but it's this super nice, like crispy material, and I think it would make a great button up. There's actually quite a lot of it, and I would definitely be able to make a button up out of this. So yeah, that's what it's gonna turn into. It was originally purchased to be a quilt back for a baby quilt that I made, and I did use it as the quilt back, but there just happens to be a lot extra. So it'll be perfect for this button up. Also, if you do not agree with my choice to use quilting cotton as a button up, that's totally fine. I've done it before, it's been great, so don't come for me. Okay, and lastly, I have these fabrics, all of which are printed and all of which are not very big, which means that I can't make them into a garment, and they also are kind of clashing patterns, so I don't think it would be nice to make into a quilt or anything, and honestly, I have no idea what I'm gonna do with them. This one, for example, is just the small pieces that were left over from a button-up that I made, but it's like really small, and I don't exactly know what I would do with something that's this size. I think it's time for these small pieces to maybe be at the end of their life cycle because I don't really have any use for them and they're too small to sell. They're also too small to really do anything with, unless for example I was a quilter and I was using them as quilt squares, but I don't really do that. I have made one small baby quilt and I've also done some quilted coats, but they're very muted. They're not in a crazy style. They're all solid colors, no prints involved. So yeah, I think with these like really small leftover pieces, it's gonna be okay to just get rid of them. I will do some research onto how to properly dispose of these because I know that there are ways that they can be recycled, so that's probably the route that I'm gonna go with these. Okay, wait, I actually almost forgot about these two fabrics. They're a leather-like material. They're not actually leather, and they're pretty thin, so I can definitely sew with them. I'm thinking that this one here is probably gonna become a purse. I'm not sure of the name of the purse, but I'll pop it on the screen and show you a picture. It's a really cute circular purse, and it's a free pattern, so that's probably what this one will become. This one here is a really small piece of fabric, so I'm not exactly sure what I can make out of it, but I'm gonna keep it around because I do like the fabric and I think it'll be useful in the future. Okay, oh my gosh, we just went through so much fabric. So admittedly that took a lot more time than I had anticipated, but now I have so many projects that I'm excited to make that I wouldn't have otherwise been able to make unless I went through my fabric remnants. If you enjoyed watching this video, you would probably also enjoy going through your own fabric stash, and I would highly, highly recommend that you do. I also hope that this video gave you some fun ideas and inspiration for what you're planning to make for your future wardrobe. If you enjoyed this video, please don't forget to subscribe, and I will see you in the next one.